Hello and welcome to the fourth round of the O2C Doeberl Cup being held at the Hellenic Club in Canberra, Australia, Australia's capital. Tonight we had a very exciting round, not least because the players got to hear 6 different versions of Pretty Woman as performed by the house band on the Friday night. There was the remix version, the encore version and the straight version. We didn't have an instrumental, but we're expecting it. It was a lot of fun for the players. We shut a lot of doors, shut out some of it, but still I think all the players will be going home humming Pretty Woman tonight. And one of them who will be humming louder than most will be Doeberl Johansson, the clear leader of the tournament, after an amazing win over Vadim Malakhatko. This game was absolutely dead for Johansson, who was playing white. He reached the position on the demonstration board. He can hardly move. After Malakhatko plays pawn to f6, suddenly there's a giant threat of queen to c6 attacking this pawn. There's no way to defend it. Well, if you move your knight, for example, this queen will invade and those queenside pawns will disappear rather quickly. There's nothing to do whatsoever, and somehow Johansson held on. First of all, he centralised his king, queen c6 of course, and then defended the pawn with his knight. Of course, the knight can be removed, queen takes, and then queen takes on e4. So you'd think, looks pretty promising, I must admit. Suddenly Johansson plays f3. He's saying, well, I'll go one pawn down. Now there's moves like queen check, anything wins for black. But Malakhatko was getting rather short of time. He played knight check, which at first sight looks good. It cuts the queen out. The king moved. And then he moved his queen back. But suddenly, after queen to h6, there's all sorts of invasion problems. He can certainly grab this pawn, but eventually his king's going to get checked and checked and checked, and there's no clear escape. And after this, amazing things happened. Certainly Malakhatko could have defended better, but he got completely confused. A few moves later, his king was checked all around to here. He'd withdrawn the knight to c5. This position was reached 3 times. Johansson could have claimed a draw, but he was so convinced that his opponent was going to keep playing for a win, he kept checking, and eventually, after a check here, black tried to run away, and this pawn fell. Now, after queen takes pawn, it's true, black is taking over the initiative. Queen check, king here, queen check, king here, queen check, king up, queen takes pawn. Suddenly, black's a pawn up, and completely lost. A couple of checks by Johansson on this square. If you run that way, you lose that pawn with check. He lost this one with check. The queen invaded. Eventually the king was forced out to h6. Black took this pawn, rather white took this pawn. Suddenly there's no checks for the queen. The a pawn is strong. Black's position was a total ruin and he lost a few moves later. That was a big blow for the second seed and a big win for the Australian Grandmaster. So all of a sudden we have Johansson in the lead, closely followed by Zhang Zhong, the top seed, who defeated Pu Chen Wang of New Zealand. It was a very tight game. In fact, apparently Pu Chen Wang missed a forced win at one point in the game, but ultimately he went down. And we have a number of other players on 3.5. It's very tight at the top, but our sole leader, after 4 rounds, Doeberl Johansson, going into the 3rd day of the tournament.